Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Naranam Namaskrityam Naronchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirahe Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Thank you. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, the chapter, the canto 3, chapter 20, text number 13. The chapter is titled Conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. Raja Pradhanan Mahata Trilingo Deva Oditat जात ससर्ज भूतादि व्यद आदिनि पंचशा रज प्रधानान् महता त्रिलिंगो दैव ओदितात् जात ससर्ज भूतादि व्यद आदिनि पंचशा रज प्रधानान् महता त्रिलिंगो दैव ओदितात् जात ससर्ज भूतादि Vyad Adini Panchasha. Word by word, synonyms. Raja Pradhanat, in which the element of Raja or passion predominates. Mahataha, from the Mahatattva. Trilinga, of three kinds. Daiva Oditat, impelled by superior authority. Jataha, was born. Sasaja, evolved. Bhuta Adihi, the false ego. Origin of the material elements. Vyat, the ether. Adini, beginning with. Panchashaha, in groups of 5. Translation purported by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Sri Prabhupada ki Jai. As impelled by the... Oh, thank you. As impelled by the destiny of the jiva, the false ego, which is of 3 kinds, evolved from the Mahatattva, in which the element of Rajaha predominates. From the ego in turn evolved many groups of 5 principles. Right? Purport. The primordial matter or Prakriti, material nature, consisting of 3 modes, generates 4 groups of 5. The first group is called elementary and consists of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. The second group of 5 is called Tanmatraha, referring to the subtle elements, which is the sense objects. Sound, touch, form, taste, and sight and smell. The third group is the 5 sense organs for acquiring knowledge. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. The fourth group is the 5 working senses: speech, hands, feet, anus, and genitals. Some say that there are 5 groups of 5. One group is the sense objects, one is the 5 elements, one is the 5 sense organs for acquiring knowledge, another is the senses for working, and the 5th group is the 5 deities who controlled these divisions. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जना शलाकाय चक्षुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सगनजतां सगना रघुनाथा सगना रघुनाथाभितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजना सहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सगना ललिता श्रीविशाखाभितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमस्तुते तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानो सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। कृष्ण कृष्ण रज प्रधानन महता त्रिलिंग दैव ओदिता जात ससर्ज भूतादि वेद आदिनि पंचशाहा as impelled by the destiny of the jiva, the false ego, which is of three kinds, evolved from the Mahatattva, in which the element of Raja predominates. From the ego in turn evolved many groups of five principles. In this chapter, we see, after describing the pastimes of Lord Varaha, especially uh, uh, why the Lord took the form of Varaha as Lila Avatar and killed the demon Hiranyaksha. And we see the entire history of Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, how they were born, how they were the original doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, Jai Vijay. Right. So after all that narration, which was, if you see the Srimad Bhagavatam, initially starting from the first chapter of the first canto, there is a conversation by the sages which were assembled in Naimisharanya, headed by Shaunaka Rishi, and they were approaching Sutta Goswami with 5 questions, which was detailed in the first chapter, the first canto. And ultimately, the answer of those 5 questions covers the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, 18,000 verses. So after hearing this description of Varaha, Lord Varaha, Saunaka Rishi, beginning of this chapter, again is asking and inquiring more from Sutta Goswami to expand on this Harikatha, because it delivers one from all kinds of sins more than from the scenes of being washed by the water of Ganges. Right. And Sutta Goswami is responding to that inquiry that Vidura, because he was describing uh, Sukadeva Goswami's narration of Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, which he was fortunate to be in that assembly. And Sukadeva Goswami in turn was describing to Parikshit Maharaj about the conversation between Maitreya Muni and Vidura. So he responded that Vidura was delighted to hear the pastimes of Varahadev. And then he had inquired from Maitreya, right, as the creation of Brahma, which we heard in the earlier chapters of the third canto about this Visharga, secondary creation, right? So, to his response, Maitreya Muni is summarizing, right? Before going into Brahma and the Prajapatis and Swambhuva Manu, ultimately they want to know, he wants to describe about Swambhuva Manu and the secondary creation. But before that, he is summarizing the primary creation, which is Sarga, right? And this verse falls in that summary of that primary creation, right, where he describes about this Mahatattva. Let me also share this screen of this. Yeah, the keynote. That Mahatattva, right? That how when the Lord desires creation, he expands himself as Karnodakshai Vishnu or Mahavishnu, who is lying in the Karana ocean. And that Karana ocean is filled with the Pradhan, the material nature, right, which is in its inactive state. The material nature, which is in the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, ignorance. And that entire amalgamation of this material nature is called the Mahatattva, which is primarily in the mode of goodness. So Mahatattva in goodness, and we see here in these particular words it mentions about Rajaha, right? Where Mahatattva in the mode of passion, which is also called the Sutra Tattva, right? And from it comes the Ahankar, the false ego, right? There's a real ego, which means the real ego, the soul knows about its position. Mamaivancho Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, that is fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. But in the false ego, it is covered by these three modes of nature, and that's why it's considered as Ahankar in three modes or three kinds. Ahankar, which is predominantly in ignorance or tama, but We see ahankar in goodness, ahankar in passion, and ahankar in ignorance. When ahankar is in goodness, we see the jnana sakti. Ahankar in passion gives rise to the kriya sakti, and in ignorance, it's called the dravya sakti, right? Or the cause and the effect, the dravya sakti. So, uh, and no, it's mentioned in the earlier chapter, third canto, fifth chapter, where Maitreya Muni initially starts describing about the Sarga, the primary creation, that how when Mahatattva is glanced upon by the Lord, it transforms into Ahankar. And it is manifested in three phases: Adi Daiva, which is the Karta or doer, from which comes mind, and Vaikarika or goodness; Adhyatma, which is Karana, which is the cause, from which comes the senses or Tejas or passion; and Adibhuta, which is Karya, comes the effect, and from that comes the Bhuta or elements, right? Here, the word used here is Vyad Adini. Vyad means ether, and Adini means etc. Right? Like earth, water, fire, air, ether. The Dravya, the material elements, or Bhuta. That comes from ignorance. The false ego in goodness gives rise to the mind and demigods. In passion, gives rise to the senses, and in ignorance gives rise to the sense objects. And then here there are these uh, um, group of five is mentioned in the words, and Sri Prabhupada expands that mostly there are four groups of five, but somewhere it is also mentioned the five groups of five. And let's look at the four groups of five initially. The four groups of five, Vyad Adini, so ether, earth, water, fire, air, right? Bhumi apo nalo vayu kamamana, Bhumi apo nalo vayu, right? In we have that in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And then we have the Jnana Sakti, right? Or we have the five tanmatras and the five elements, like the five elements is the earth, water, fire, ether. The five tanmatras are the sound, touch, form, taste, and smell, and how they are related with the material elements, right? And then we have the words Sri Prabhupada nicely explains about the five working senses, Yasakti, speech, hands, feet, anus, and genitals, and the five knowledge acquiring senses, which are the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Right. So these are basically four groups of five. And then we can talk about, hold on, what happened? The predominating deities also, right? Which can become the five groups of five, right? Uh, Especially the eyes, ears, skin, nose, and tongue. Those are the knowledge acquiring senses, and the devatas for that could be the Dig Devta, Surya, Vayu, Ashwini Kumars, and Varuna. Right. So that culminates and ultimately the entire combination of that with the inclusion of time, kala, that comprises of these 24 elements, which ultimately means we heard about that how uh, from that Mahatattva, these 24 elements, the primary creation comes into being. It's there in a dormant state, and slowly it gets activated by the glance of the Supreme Lord. Right? So that's what he starts explaining in these particular words, Maitreya Muni, in his conversation with Vidura. Are there any questions and discussions in this topic?
Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisance.
Please accept my namaste, Prabhupada.
Prabhu, who are the five deities?
The five deities, we talked about the five demigods, right? Where the Dig Devtas, right? The Surya, Vayu, Ashwini Kumars, and Varuna.
Can you repeat it? I got four.
Dig Devtas, which basically, is the deity controlling the ear. Surya, the deity controlling the eyes. Vayu, the deity controlling the skin. Ashwini Kumaras, the deity controlling the nose. And Varuna, the deity controlling the tongue.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah. And then we see the hands, feet, voice, anus, and genitals are also controlled by deities. And they are respectively Indra, Upendra, Agni, Mitra, and Prajapati. Right. And when we were discussing about Adi Daiva, Adhyatma, and Adi Bhuta, in the early chapters of the third canto, or I think the final chapters of the second canto, we heard about these deities in detail, that how each and every ornaments, when the deity ornaments controlling that particular dormant sense, then it becomes it comes into action rather. Otherwise, it's in a dormant state, right? So the mixture of this Adi Deva, which is the demigod or the doer, Adhyatma, which is the cause, and Adi Bhuta, which is the effect. Is that all right?
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other discussion, questions, realization, which somebody would like to share? Yeah, we still have 6 minutes. That's fast. Yeah. Yeah. And we'll see in this chapter, ultimately, Maitreya Muni going towards the secondary creation which comes from Lord Brahma. That okay, now Lord Brahma has expanded these Prajapatis and Swambha Munu. How does secondary creation come from that? But here we see the summary in this particular verse, a summary of the primary creation, right? Which the chart which I was referring to comes from the 5th chapter of the 3rd canto, where we already went through that, how these different elements come into being. And similarly, in the second canto and ending chapters also, it was described. After the Chatusloki Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes. So just like when we lectures, different points are, though we have heard in the past, again it is summarized. Similarly, we see in the conversation different points which are already talked about. Maitreya Muni also summarizes that to Vidura. Okay, yes, we talked about this, and before we go to the secondary creation, let's go to the Sarga so that it's fresh in memory. Yep. Already. Any other discussion? And we find that in Srimad Bhagavatam, all these points are so clearly mentioned in quite a detail. Haribol, somebody had a question?
Hare Krishna. Sorry, Babu. I was muted, but I have a question.
Yes, Prabhuji, go ahead.
So the mind, intelligence, and false ego controlled by the deity. I know that is some. Can you clarify that about the deity?
The mind, intelligence, and false ego is controlled by the deity. Right, yeah. They're also controlled by the deity. Like, mind, we hear that is controlled by the deity called Aniruddha. The Lord's form of Aniruddha controls the mind. Right. Intelligence and false ego are also controlled by the deities. Intelligence is by Pradyumna, if I'm not mistaken. False ego ultimately is by Sankarshan. That's how they control. So, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so yesterday I related to faith. Yesterday I discussed about it, but regarding the faith also, we did not find anything about that. Faith is not material. I think that because of that we did not get any description in Bhagavatam. There's a material element, 26 element in that 26 element. We didn't find any faith related anything. So faith is and faith is also, you can see the faith is maybe the spiritual, maybe the material, maybe the faith of ignorance, faith of mode, three mode also controlling the faith. Faith in more mode of goodness means it is going to the spiritual. It is good faith.
Mm-hmm.
So question is that there is this faith. Yesterday already Srimad Prabhu mentioned that this is come from the mercy, through the mercy from Guru and Bhagavan, and Guru, Shastra and Bhagavan, and to ultimately come from Balaram, Balaram.
Mm-hmm.
So this faith is not defined anywhere. This faith is not the material element. Is it correct?
Yeah, it's not the material element. Faith is a product of, just like soul has consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Pure soul has pure consciousness. But the consciousness, when it comes in contact with material nature, it becomes conditioned consciousness. Right. So, product of that consciousness is faith. It is, if you Google the word Sadau Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, no, it's the Dasamula Stotra. It comes from Srimad Bhagavatam in the early chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Adau Shraddha, that is how this Dasamula Stotra, that faith, initially, just as you mentioned about faith in tainted by different modes, right? Faith in the mode of ignorance. People will have faith in all this, ghost and all this kind of creation. Now, so similarly, faith in the mode of goodness, right? When by the mercy of a devotee, Kripa, when he starts developing faith in the Supreme Lord or his devotees, that faith towards God comes only by the mercy of a devotee, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
So that is Adav Shraddha. And that faith, so that the example is also given like a seed, the bij, which is implanted in the form of mercy by devotee. And that bij, the seed of faith, then gets nourished by, well, just like a seed, for it to slowly grow, it is nourished by water and minerals and all. So this faith is nourished by bhajana kriya and sadhu sangha. Right? That's the nourishment of the faith. And with bhajan kriya and sadhu sangha, right? Adav Saddha sadhu sangha bhajana kriya anartha nivritti. Then when it comes in contact with a expert gardener or like senior devotee or spiritual master, then this anartha nivritti happens, because along with that faith, along with that seed, also sprouts unwanted desires, right? Unwanted desires. Where does this desire come from? They come from consciousness. And consciousness, when it's conditioned, mode of ignorance, the desire is to, okay, let me be lazy, let me sleep, right? In mode of passion, the desires are, let me acquire, let me, so lusty elements. It's a desire in the mode of passion. Desire in the mode of goodness is like, okay, let me, learn, let me teach, let me explain. Those are desires in the mode of goodness, right? And then we have the transcendental desires, desire to serve the Supreme Lord, right? So the unwanted desires, anartha nivritti, happens in the contact with the spiritual master, right? Yeah, we are going past our time, but today is, how many people have off day today?
Yes, Prabhu. Very nice, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
But we can discuss this more in our Nitya Bhagavata Sevya. Yeah, because it's a nice topic of how this faith grows, starting with Shraddha to Nishta. But for it to come to Nishta, first of all, anartha nivritti needs to happen.
Prabhu's suggestion, I think many may be having holiday, but perhaps if not during lunch break, we can reconvene on the same channel and you can discuss this further, if it's okay.
We can discuss now if devotees don't mind. We can discuss it now.
Yeah, I'm fine. It depends on the rest.
Is that all right to everybody?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Mataji has holiday, all right, and Prabhuji has holiday, all right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have holiday. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that's where that flickering faith then becomes nishta, right? Fixed faith, right? And then ultimately, in that stage of nishta, we start having symptoms of asakti, right? Attachment to the service, attachment to the Lord, ruchi, taste of performing devotional service. And then ultimately comes to bhava, which then ultimately the topmost position is prema, prema pumartha mahan. Right. Ramananda Roy also explains this, right? The conversation of Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy, when Mahaprabhu wants more and more nectar to flow, and he's asking questions. Please tell me more, please tell me more. And Ramananda Roy, goes to a deeper subject matter. It's about all this, ultimately love of God, prema. Is that all right?
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, does it have to
Dhanavat.
follow the sequence, or can you get, for example, ruchi before going through all the steps?
Well, before going through all the steps, you have a abhas of ruchi, not real ruchi. In the sense, just imagine that, okay, you have ruchi to perform devotional service, right? We have ruchi. Oh, just like on festival time, how our taste develops. But immediately the ruchi gets fractured. Oh, big time. It's World Cup, right? Today is the match between Argentina and right. So our ruchi, if it is uh, taste, fixed taste, then we won't be deterred by any of those things. Otherwise, we get some, even in the sadhaka stage, we get some taste, which is preliminary form of that ruchi, but it's not fixed. That taste comes from bhajan kriya and sadhu sangha also, where the taste develops, but that anartha niviti, since that anarthas are still there, it does not become fixed. Our desires for material sense enjoyment predominates then, or at different times it comes up when we are in the association of devotees, especially in performance of devotional service. Otherwise, we are in the association of devotees even in watching soccer or playing some games or uh, some little bit mundane things. Because we are at that level. Now the association of devotees, just you see the same association of devotees, the sages are assembled at Naimisharanya, headed by Shaunaka. What is their sport? Harikatha. Their sport is Harikatha. Right. Our condition stage, we don't have full taste of the Harikatha, and that's why it's tainted with moments, lower modes. Is that all right, Amrita?
Yeah, Prabhu, very nice.
Okay. Anything else?
Maybe we should do a seminar on this one, Prabhu. How to get from the Shraddha to Prema in the practical method. The knowledge is nicely explained, but how to put it in practice one of these days, if it's possible.
Yeah.
This is the foundation of Bhakti, no? The platform.
Yeah, it's the foundation of bhakti. And that ultimately I find that yes, we can talk about it, we have the philosophy. Ultimately it comes down to utsahan, nishchaya, dhairya, right? Enthusiasm, determination, firm determination to perform devotional service. Because for us to cross this barrier of anartha-nivritti, that's a major one. That's a major barrier. That needs firm faith in the spiritual master. Right. Firm faith in spiritual master. The spiritual master says, no, okay, let's take vanaprastha. And we still hang around. Oh, no, still this responsibility, that responsibility. So then, that barrier is there, right? Where our firm surrender um, is not there completely, right? Yeah. Otherwise, we have this wonderful break. Many, including me, would have a break from work from today to the end of this year. I can think about, okay, from faith, what will please my spiritual master more? Or let me distribute books, let me do this, let me do that. Satatam Kirtan Tamam. Right. Perform devotional service nicely or try to find out what all things are hampering my devotional service. Make a list of that and slowly approach my spiritual master for a remedy. Okay, I have a to-do list of all these lusted desires. How do I tackle that? And then I mean, slowly implement that. How to overcome that, right? Yeah, because that's the biggest hurdle. Once we overcome that, then we see things more clearly. Right now itself, we, as you mentioned, that Ruchi, couldn't it come before? Yeah, right now itself, we can see and taste the performance of devotional service. That's like nectar which is diluted. But just imagine, nectar which is diluted, if it tastes so nice, what about now? It's complete nectar. It will taste so ambrosial, so nice. Yeah. Right. Commentable.
Yeah, Prabhu.
Ready. So anybody interested in these 7 days till the end to give me company in book distribution, I will encourage that. I will join you, whether it is door to door, whether it is going out. I will join you. Yeah.
I'm planning to go, Prabhu. I'll let you know.
Okay. Thank you very much, Krishna Prabhu, for saving me. Yeah. And that's how, in the initial stage of ICNJ, we used to go to these different complexes, door to door, and it was so nice. Sometimes we'll get banged by somebody who will close the door on us. Sometimes they will welcome us. And that seed gets implanted in the form of mercy. Okay, we are not like a pure platform, but then also, we are taking the book of a pure devotee. And that, if it gets implanted somewhere, that can work wonders. Yeah. That will be our implementation phase of all our Nityam Bhagavata Sevya, the hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing about this Bhagavad Gita for last few weeks. The implementation phase is, let's not keep it to ourselves, let's distribute it. Yeah. So, Taman Prabhu, anytime, please get me.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Sure.
Okay.
Jai,
Thank you very much, Paramananda, Chaitanya Prabhu.
Jai Prabhuji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the devotees. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, engage us, engage me also.
Prabhuji, give me the mercy.
No, engage me.
Sure.
Distribution. Already. Vanchakalpatarubhascha kripa sindhu
Namo Namaha.
Namo Namaha.
गुरु की जय।
So we wish you all a safe and Krishna conscious day and weekend ahead. On Sunday, there is 8 to 9 lecture by Chaturagna Prabhu.
Yes.
And tomorrow, Christmas Eve, we have a gathering in the temple. If you are not RSVP'd, please do that so that we can have an estimate of Sangha, of devotees to personally Shyam Prabhu and Jyotirmai Sachi Mataji. Not Jyotirmai, Radhika Mataji. Yeah. Okay. So that's tomorrow. And then Christmas time, Krishna must exchange of gifts, exchange of books. No, so nice if we can distribute books. Next 2 days. That's happening this weekend. We would like to offer our prayers to the Supreme Lord by chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Ram,
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shino Shingo, Jai Jai No Shingo, Baladesha, Jai Padma Mukhapada Kintam, Ugravina Nrsimha Vishnu Bhadra Mithya Mithya Namamiham. Nrsimha Bhagwan ki Jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki Jai. For our humble obeisances to all the Samal Vaishnavas, repeat one Kalpatar Vesta Vipas Hindu Bhaya Dharanam Pavane Granthar Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Pada ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.
Hare 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 Bol.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you everybody. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna.